problem was growing up for me, ADHD didn't exist. What existed was sit down, you're disrupting the class disease. And so, it took well into my mid 30s until I got diagnosed and realized, holy shit, all the things that I've been doing that got me in trouble, that broke up my relationships, that got me fired before I started my own companies. All that stuff was me working differently than other people were used to, or studying differently, or learning differently, or acting differently. And a lot of times in this world, you know, the motto is, if you're different, that's wrong. And I
Yeah.
sort of rebelled against that. And so my childhood, growing up, school, sucked ass. I mean, I went to high school of performing arts, the famed school. That saved me because everyone was a weirdo there. But junior high, college, all that was really tough. And it wasn't until I realized, like, for instance, ADHD means you have 25% less dopamine in your system, less monoamine inhibitors in your system. Dopamine is the focus chemical. It's what lets you sit there and focus on. And so on shit that I loved, English, science, whatever, I totally focused because I was producing dopamine. The stuff that I hated, math, I wouldn't. And so I'd sit there and I'd turn into the class clown. I'd make the kids laugh. What I didn't realize at the time was
Yeah.
when I made the kids laugh, what did that do? That gave me a dopamine hit. I was literally doing that to learn, so I could sit down and learn, right? But you don't know that when you're 14 or 15, so you just getting in trouble. Peter needs to sit down and pay attention in class. And so it wasn't until my mid 30s that I realized that everything I'd done, started companies, sold companies, get up at 3 in the morning to go for a run, all this stuff I was doing was self-medicating. And once I realized that, holy shit, I can change everything. I can own everything. And so skydiving is a perfect example of that. When I land, I'm high as a kite. I dated a woman once who was she's getting her second PhD, which right there tells you we shouldn't have been dating, but getting her second PhD in neurobio, some shit, I don't know. And she basically she told me that her job, she was at Rutgers, her job was feeding cocaine to rats. I'm like, so the government just gives you cocaine? She's like, yes, and no, you're not. I'm like, okay, I had to ask. But so she says, I want to take your blood. So she took my blood one morning when I woke up, and then we drove to the drop zone. She took my blood again on the ground. She took my blood after I landed again on the ground, and she said the difference was palpable. She goes, when you landed, you were half a molecule away from a full blown coke addict, and she goes, it makes perfect sense because your body releases so much dopamine, adrenaline, serotonin to keep you alive while you're jumping, and that stuff doesn't just fade away. That has to drip out over time. It doesn't just stop. So when I land, I'm more focused than I've ever been in my life. I drop my parachute. I sit in the corner of the drop zone in the hangar. I grab my laptop and I'll write 10,000 words in 30 minutes. I'll same thing when I wrote my last two bestsellers on airplanes. I flew to Tokyo and back, not because I needed to go to Tokyo, because I needed to write 14 hours each way in a controlled environment where nothing can get me, nothing can interrupt me, allows my hyperfocus to kick in. And so I will work, I fly 14 hours to Tokyo, write half the book, go to the lounge, take a shower, not even clear customs, have a cup of coffee, get back on the same plane, same seat 2 hours later, write chapter 6 through 10 on the way back, land with the book. Um, Understanding how your brain works, and understanding also that like most entrepreneurs, but especially like everyone with ADD or ADHD, um, I only have two speeds, and only two speeds. I have namaste and I'll cut a bitch, and there's no middle ground, right? It's like, and so when I became a single dad, my daughter would be like, I want pizza. So I'd order pizza and she'd have a slice and I'd have 7 slices. And I'm like, okay, this is shit that has to change. So, we go out for pizza now, or we go out and we buy 2 slices and bring them back. We don't, there's no such thing in my world as leftover pizza. Um, and I've,
Sean and I had a extra large pizza the other day, and Sean said, "You know, every time we do this, we eat however much pizza
yeah,
there is."
yeah, I don't stop eating when I'm full. I stop eating when I hate myself. And
Yeah.
it's the premise that, so I constantly go back to the movie War Games, one of my favorite movies, and has one of the best lines for someone with a neurodiverse brain. um, Interesting game, the only winning move is not to play. I very, very rarely drink. I don't drink outside ever. I don't drink at restaurants. I don't drink at bars. If I am going to drink, which is maybe 4 times a year, I'll drink for a specific reason with a friend in my apartment, and we will have a bottle of whatever, and we will drink it. And when it's over, when it's done, we go to sleep, or we don't drink anymore because again, I'm not trying to get drunk. I don't believe I'm an alcoholic per se, but I'm not going to have one drink. I'm going to have 6 drinks because they're there. Same reason with pizza. And so you just learn to be aware of yourself and learn um, sort of how to put these rules into play. I get up sometimes as early as 3:30 in the morning to exercise before my daughter wakes up, so I can get an hour or two on the Peloton or run or whatever, so I don't interfere with my daughter's life. So I'm focused on her when she wakes up, and by that time, again, an hour and a half on the Peloton, 2 hours on the Peloton, all the chemicals are in my brain, and I'm focused, and I can focus on her. And she knows it. At 8 years old, she knows, Daddy, you weren't on your bike today. I'm like, how do you know? You're not as happy. Like, she gets it. And so it really is about understanding yourself and understanding sort of what works for you and what makes you the best you can be in all scenarios. And
do you find that are ADHD and alcoholism, is there a high correlation there?
There's a high correlation between neurodiversity and alcoholism, yes. And again, it's because alcohol delivers dopamine, cocaine delivers dopamine. You look at, I think there was a stat, 68% of all men currently in prison have undiagnosed ADHD. It's one thing when you're normal, when you're a neurotypical brain, it's that joke that you put 100 guys in a room, give them all cocaine, 90 of them come out and say, that was fun. One guy will be like, I need more of that shit. And that was me when I started skydiving as well. My first jump was, I organized 150 people. I was running my PR firm, and as a publicity stunt, I took 150 CEOs skydiving. And in the summer of 2000, we called it Web Dive 2000. And 149 of them had a great time, and they thought it was awesome, and they talked about it. I went back and got certified. It's like, I need more of that, whatever that is. And again, didn't know it at the time, but that was, so yeah, it's a very all or nothing.
Why does the increased dopamine rush, whether that's from alcohol, drugs, something like skydiving, could be any number of things. Why is that helpful for somebody with ADHD, though?
Because when you have ADHD, you have about 25% less dopamine in your brain, which means that normal acts where you have to focus, concentrate, be present are sometimes a little harder. And we live in a society where the average attention span is 2.7 seconds to begin with. That's not a made up stat. It's a real stat. 2.7 seconds before something else grabs your attention. And so if you're focused, if every 2.7 seconds you have to look back and focus on something, or remind yourself to stay present. Oh, I'm talking to my girlfriend. What she's saying is important. Don't look at your phone. Don't look at your watch. Don't look at the helicopter out the window. When you have less, normally a normal person's brain says, oh, you need to focus here. She's talking about something that you should probably pay attention to. Here's some dopamine, right, to do that. My brain doesn't do that. My brain gives me less. And so it is harder to focus to begin with. On the flip side of that, it's also the kind of brain that after a workout, I might decide today is a perfect day to grab the car. I live in Manhattan, grab the car, go to her house in Jersey and surprise her with a dozen roses at 9:30 in the morning on a Tuesday because it's Tuesday. That's the all or nothing aspect of my brain. I might, she jokes, she was telling me something that she had to come into the city for a meeting a couple of weeks ago. And if she had to bring me something anyway. And she's like, yeah, I can bring it to you. And I'll stop by your apartment. I'm happy to, I'll do that for you as a favor. That way you don't have to come to the city and get it. Come to Jersey this weekend and get it. I went, and it was clear that I wasn't paying attention. I went, oh yeah, that sounds great. I'm happy to do it. She goes, no, I'm happy to do it for you. Pay attention. And she understands the way my brain works, but it is definitely, and she understands how my brain works. And she also understands the things I have to do to make sure that I am the best I can be for her. The premise of we take vacations and I'm still up at 4 a.m. right? I might sleep in a half an hour, 40 minutes, but I'll get up. I'll be at the gym before 5, no matter what, no matter where we are, no matter how long we're out the night before, because I want to be the best I can be. And I know that short of medication, which I have a prescription, I just don't take it that often because I have other ways of getting the chemicals I need.
Right.
And also, right. I have a ridiculous reactive brain. If I take the lowest dosage of an ADHD medication, if I take it any later than like 3:30 in the morning, I'm up all night the next day. So it's like, it's just easier to find other ways to take it. But, so yeah, having someone who understands that is a tremendous gift. But I wouldn't trade it for anything. I really believe that the majority, if not all of my success has come because of it, not in spite of it.
What's your thoughts on medicating it with pharmaceuticals? And that seems to be at one point that was the only solution available for a lot of people. And I'm very interested to hear what you think about it.
I've actually written some. Just petting the dog. I've written some op-eds on this in the New York Post, the Times. That I am not anti-med, but I do not believe that medication should be the first line of defense. We're putting 5-year-olds on ADHD meds, and let's be honest, what ADHD meds are, they're speed, right?
Yes.
We're putting 5-year-olds on speed because they're acting in a lot of situations, in a lot of instances, a lot of cases, like they're 5. Right, they're acting like they're 5 years old, and little Johnny gets squirmy when you try to lay him down for a nap because his brain's going 100 miles an hour. Maybe there are alternatives to putting little Johnny on speed at 5 years old. Like I said, I have a prescription, and every once in a while, I'll take it when I know, my assistant schedules like twice a month. She'll schedule what she calls horrible meeting days, and those are days where I have to sit down, and I'm gonna have like 5 meetings over the course of the day with people I don't necessarily want to meet with or whatever, busy work, or receipt days where she says, look, you have 6 speeches you've given, you have expenses for all 6 of them. If you don't get me the receipts or whatever, you're not gonna get paid. So okay, that's a day where I will take a pill first thing in the morning just so I'm able to do that. And do I believe that meds are inherently bad? No, I do not. But I don't believe they should be the first line of defense. Instead of putting little Johnny on meds at 5 years old, maybe, he wakes up, he takes a pill, he sits down in front of the TV and has 2 bowls of chocolate frosted sugar bombs, and then gets driven to school. No wonder he's crashing by 10:30, right? No wonder he's high as a kite for the first 2 hours and then crashing. What if instead, little Johnny woke up and little Johnny and his mom or his dad or whatever ran around the block for a couple of 20 minutes, or just did some fun exercise, some Guitar Hero, whatever, and then instead of 2 bowls of chocolate frosted sugar bombs, little Johnny had a couple of hard-boiled eggs, maybe some protein, some fruit. And look, I know it's not easy. I know what it's like to get my 8-year-old out the door, and I'm practically having to force feed her shit that I know she'd much rather have a bowl of Cinnamon Toast Crunch. But on the flip side, you're going to have an egg and you're going to have some bacon because you need the protein, and I don't want you falling asleep at 11 o'clock in the morning after your sugar high wears off. And so it's not easy, and I get that. And I'm not blaming the parents for that at all. But the problem, I believe, can be traced back to the fact that the schools, teachers are having to do 10 times more with 5 times less. And it is very difficult for a teacher in a class of 30 kids in a public school to adapt just one child who's different. Right.
And they're shortening these recess times as
that's
well.
The thing. I interviewed someone on my podcast, a professor in Texas, who did a study. She took over a school, and they were getting 20 minutes a day of recess, and she upped that to 60 minutes, 20 minutes 3 times a day, 60 minutes, and changed the lunch and the breakfast from like 85% carbs to like something like 25% carbs and 60% protein and fats, whatever. She saw a 20%, I might screw up the numbers, it's been a couple of years, 27% decrease in boys acting out. And she saw a marked 31% increase in girls volunteering to give information or volunteering to raise their hand and answer questions in class. So they're massive, massive numbers. And, but there's really very little funding for that. There's a lot more funding for this pill, right?
Yeah, we want easy solution.
Right. It's okay, you're going to have a heart attack if you don't lose weight. Oh my God, doctor, what do I do? 20 minutes of diet and exercise, change your diet and exercise 20 minutes a day. Oh.
How about a pill?
Exactly. Yeah. And one of the greatest quotes I ever heard in my life years ago, years and years ago, now that I think about it, like over 30 years ago, a headache is not a sign of an aspirin deficiency, right? And I've always loved that quote, right? If you're trying desperately to lose those last 20 pounds, which I always am, and I'm, this is shit is not easy, right? But on the flip side, I've also been 50 pounds heavier than I am right now. And you're trying to lose those last 20 pounds, you make sacrifices for what's important to you. I run a mastermind group, and every once in a while, someone will quit, and happens, right? There's churn. And I always ask them, hey, you want to tell us why you're leaving? Oh, it's not the time. Okay, well, that's actually bullshit. Because you don't have the desire, and that's fine. I have no problem with my mastermind not being the most important thing in your life, but own that, right? Don't sit there and say I don't have the time, because you have the same amount of time that I do, that this dog does, that Beyonce does, right? How you utilize that time. If I want to get up at 3:30 in the morning and get on the Peloton for 2 hours to go for a run,